And we're following the latest on our breaking story out of East Hollywood. At least 30 people injured after a driver plowed his vehicle into a crowd early this morning. The LA Fire Department says 7 of those injured outside the music venue are in critical condition. CNN's Julia.
We're diving into the shocking chaos that erupted early this morning in East Hollywood, where a driver plowed his car into a crowd outside a popular nightclub, injuring over 30 people. The drama didn't stop there. This driver was dragged from his vehicle and shot by a bystander who remains armed and dangerous. Let's break this down together.
Vargas Jones is outside the venue. Julia, what more are officials saying about the driver, why all of this happened? Any new information?
Yeah, look, they're still looking for that motive, Fred, but they are piecing together a bit of a timeline of what happened here between this individual being in the car and dragged out and then eventually shot. I want to play for you just a soundbite from the police explaining what they know so far.
The driver of that vehicle was pulled out and a physical altercation ensued where the bystanders were physically assaulting.
This flips the script innocent crowd or vigilante justice. The real story is how quickly bystanders turned on the driver, raising questions about motives and the fine line between justice and chaos.
During that altercation, somebody produced a firearm and shot that driver of the vehicle. The driver was transported to a local hospital in unknown condition. The shooter in this situation is still outstanding, and we consider him armed and dangerous.
The shooter remains at large, armed and unidentified, injecting fear and uncertainty into what had seemed a straightforward emergency response danger lurks after the initial crash.
And Fred, this is their priority right now, is to find that shooter. They said they are still investigating, trying to find that man. But I want to just bring this home to you that this is a neighborhood, East Hollywood, just east of Hollywood and between Los Feliz and Silver Lake. It's a part of town that is generally deemed safe, that you wouldn't necessarily expect this kind of an altercation or a criminal activity to be happening, or for someone to pull out a gun outside of a nightclub. It is a part of Los Angeles that has a vibrant nightlife, and that is part of the shock of the story this morning. Mayor Karen Bass even saying, earlier today that her heart goes out to Angelinos and all the victims impacted by this, and saying that there will be a full investigation into what happened. But we do have reporting at this point, Fred, that has basically discarded any connection to terrorism of this incident, and also any further criminal intent, aside from the fact that this driver, authorities believe, was intoxicated at the time of this incident, Fred.
Okay. Julia Vargas Jones, thanks so much. All right, joining me right now for more is Eric Scott, Public Information Officer with the Los Angeles Fire Department. Great to see you. So let's begin with the scene itself. Walk us through what those first responders encountered when they got there.
Yeah, as you can imagine, it was a very chaotic scene. So first off, we want to say that our hearts go out to everybody that was impacted by this traumatic event. Fortunately, we responded very quickly. It was a rather distressing scene. As you can imagine, at 2 a.m., it's dark outside in East Hollywood. We just had early reports of a vehicle into a crowd, so we didn't know if it was legitimate or how significant. So very busy sidewalk outside of a nightclub. Numerous individuals were present throughout that area because you had a taco hot dog stand that people were lined up in front of. You had a valet podium that people were lined in front. Also people coming out of a nightclub. Therefore, there was a lot of people. When that vehicle went up on that curb, it struck a totally of 30 different individuals. Fortunately, there's no structural damage to the building or extrication that we had to pull people out from rubble or anything. But the scale of the response was significant. We had 100 and find out those that were most significant and in immediate need and treat them, and then transport them to the appropriate different hospitals based upon what their injuries were.
7 of the 30 that were injured were transported in critical condition. 6 were considered serious. Do you have an update at all on the conditions of people?
So that is accurate. We don't have an update because once they leave our care as paramedics that are the highest level of medical authority outside a hospital setting, we don't follow up necessarily. We give them to the emergency rooms. But yeah, we did encounter 30 people total, 23 we had to transport. Like you said, 7 were critical. So when you think of just a massive blunt objects hitting people, from contusions, abrasions, some significant injuries to those 7 individuals. 6 were serious, 10 were transported in fair condition, and then 7 of those 30 actually said, we're okay, they're declining transport after we evaluated them. But we had to work real close with LAPD as well to secure the scene. They were a big help in maintaining public safety throughout.
So in all the frenzy, from this morning, paramedics, realized that they actually had a gunshot victim in the mix as well from a secondary assessment, of the driver. Talk to us about that. Are you able to tell us, where he was shot, whether he was conscious, or any details about that?
We'll say they were conscious, but we don't go into, patient privacy medical reports. That would be inappropriate. But you are correct. We did treat and transport the driver of that vehicle who had sustained injuries. You had reported what police officers had stated, that individual was pulled out of the vehicle, assaulted, and somebody pulled out a gun and that individual was shot. And that's part of LAPD's ongoing investigation. They're combing through all the debris and talking to witnesses, and they're doing an outstanding job. But I want to end by saying we're very fortunate there was no deaths, if you think about it. Yeah. When you have 30 individuals that were injured and 7 critical. So we were very appreciative of the coordinated effort of our public safety partners, and we remain committed to supporting the victims and the community.
Yeah. All right. Eric Scott with the LA Fire Department, thank you so much for your time.
Our pleasure.
Now, we're learning a lot more about this breaking news out of East Hollywood, where police say a driver was dragged from his car and shot by a bystander after crashing into a crowd of people and then injuring at least 30 people. The LA Fire Department says 7 of those injured outside the music venue are in critical condition. More than 100 emergency personnel responded to the scene.
This was a very chaotic scene. People were helping each other out because this was a nightclub. People were waiting to go inside there. They're ordering tacos. So they're seeing people that they don't even know are injured. They're stepping in to help them out.
CNN's Julia Vargas Jones is outside the venue. Julia, there were an incredible, sequence of events taking place outside that venue. So what's the focus now in the investigation?
Well, the focus and the priority here, Fred, is to find the person who fired the weapon onto that driver who plowed into that crowd. That person is still at large. Now, we're piecing together what happened here. What we know from video that CNN has reviewed is we see this driver driving into the crowd. After that happens and he injures more than 30 people, he's then taken out of the car. And that is when we have a fight ensue there. He's punched. He's being beaten by the crowd outside that bar. And then someone pulls out a gun and shoots that driver. That authorities say that person is still at large. He's considered armed and dangerous. But there's more to the situation that police is saying is just peculiar. Take a listen.
This is not common at all. I would say in my 18 years as a law enforcement officer in the LAPD, I would say this is first of its kind that I'm aware of.
An LAPD veteran confirms that this violent chain of events, crash, crowd assault, gunfire, stands out as unprecedented, highlighting a disturbing escalation in public confrontations.
And that, Fred, also goes to just where we are here. East Hollywood, it is a part of Los Angeles that has a lot of nightlife, a lot of commerce, but is not a particularly violent location where you would expect somebody to pull out a gun during an altercation like that, even if that did happen outside a nightclub at 2 in the morning. Now, we have from CNN's John Miller reporting that says that there's no indication at this point, Fred, that beyond the impaired state of that driver, that there was any further criminal intent there, and no connection connection to this point to terrorism or anything greater that authorities are investigating. Again, the focus remains on just finding that suspect with the weapon that they have not yet been able to find.
Yeah, incredible scene. All right, Julia Vargas Jones, thank you so much in Los Angeles.
What started as a horrifying crash into a busy nightlife crowd rapidly spiraled into a violent confrontation with a driver beaten and then shot. The community reels from 30 injured, 7 critically, while authorities scramble to find the shooter still out there. This incident exposes unexpected dangers in a generally safe area and leaves us asking, how did it come to this? Drop your take below. What does this mean for public safety and justice in LA tonight?